This episode was created with the support of Free FM, Hamilton, New Zealand's community access media organisation. Visit us at freefm.org.nz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of ReThinking Mental Wellbeing. This is our community podcast where we can talk about everything related to depression and anxiety. So my name is Andre and I want to thank you for being with me over the next half an hour as we share this space of lived experience where we can talk about how to live the best version of our authentic life. So, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to Rethinking Mental Wellbeing. If you're here for the first time, then welcome to the space. If you have been here before, then welcome back to the space. Today's episode, we're going to explore the power of being authentic, but from an introvert's perspective. And we're going to look on how to do that in a world of busyness, of chaos, in a world that is always switched on 24/7, never resting, but always reminding us that if you want to be seen, you have to be louder. You have to be more productive. You have to be more engaged. You have to keep moving. Because the world that is always on is always watching. And this demand to be louder to an introvert, this noise becomes deafening, and we drown in this noise of overwhelm. Almost like the proverbial goldfish that is thrown into the middle of the ocean. The introvert is thrown out of their environment, expected to behave and perform in an ocean of overwhelm. And so in this episode, we will explore how to create our environment as an introvert. We will dive into the quiet world within us to see how we can map that into the noisy world around us. Because it is true that we can't change the world, but we can change our environment to reflect our quiet, our stillness, because that is the place that we now feel we are in balance and in harmony with our truth. This episode isn't just for us introverts. So whether you are an introvert seeking the comfort of solitude, or simply someone longing for a deeper connection with your true self, then together in this episode, we will embrace the strength found in the silences around us. We will uncover the wisdom that we can find within, and we will celebrate the beauty of a life lived authentically. And we will do all of this from an introvert's perspective, which is the only perspective that I know. In this modern age, we often trade our silences for constant busyness, for productivity. As the world moves faster, we have been told that we need to keep up because to fall behind is to fail. But this is according to the world. And so we end up running. We move, but not knowing where we are going. And our introverted soul pleads for stillness. The world offers us convenience, often wrapped in the chaos of choices, as we devour ourselves trying to keep up, but end up tripping ourselves up over the fast-changing world around us, as the world delivers us disconnection as the promise of happiness, always reminding us that we are not happy, until the world tells us that we are, but only according to their happiness criteria, only according to their happiness comparison, and according to their happiness template. These days, our technology offers us simplicity, but often that becomes tethered to our anxiety, and technology always demanding us to take notice more and more. And in this society that often celebrates the loudest voices, the most visible presence, the constant engagement of everything external, in a world that tells us that you need to look like our definition of success, to sound like our definition of fitting in, and to be like this version of what we think will make you happy. We are indirectly being reminded that because we don't have those things that the world defines as happiness, that without them we are forever going to be unhappy. But the problem is that the world's definition of happiness changes over time. Because what will make you happy 20 years ago definitely will not make you happy now. What made you happy a year ago now feels that it needs to be upgraded, to be replaced under the new version of what society says is happiness. And so society moves at a relentless pace, demanding that we conform, that we participate, that we are seen and heard as the shouts become more and more louder, reminding us that we are not enough as we are. Society reminds us, society will tell us to do more because you are not as productive as what you could be. It tells us to speak more because you are not saying what we want you to say in the way we want you to say it. And even the self-help industry has become noisy, overwhelming, with YouTube, TikTok, Instagram producing millions of pop-up advice, selling their version of help, their version of happiness, in exchange for likes, for subscribers, for comments of appreciation and approval. So society's views and the perceptions of happiness becomes forever changing and forever elusive, as they change their versions of happiness to become better versions, more updated versions. Last year's version of happiness is not as good as this year's version of happiness. So their version of happiness has a lifespan, and you will require another version of happiness in 6 months' time, because the happiness version that you have will be obsolete. But the world does not dictate the worth to an introvert, or actually the worth of anybody. It's not about how much we do, how much we produce. It's not about how many eyes are looking at us, but for us as introverts, it's how deeply we embrace what fulfills us. It's about how sincerely we align ourselves to what brings us peace and calm and stillness. For the introvert, it is slowing down. It's not keeping up with the ever-changing world, but slowing down to the rhythm and the pulse of our own pace. And we become tired because we are not doing what we need to do, but we become exhausted when we don't listen to what we need to do. And the introvert needs to change. We need to change to a life that is not louder or faster, but softer and slower. This is about listening to our authentic nature, because that part of us will never shout for attention. That part of us whispers to you, and only in the stillness are we able to hear it. There is a profound strength about knowing yourself so well that when we stand tall in our own truth, knowing our pace in the world around us, we can start to use our own stillness as guidelines that head towards our authentic nature. We have to choose presence over performance. We have to choose the depth of experience over surface illusions. We choose truth, our truth, your truth, over a million other versions of truth, according to the world around us. Introverts navigate a path that asks to return back to the world within, to a world that doesn't speak louder, but it listens, to a world that does not seek to make more noise to be heard. There are quiet spaces held within, that in those quiet spaces, out of the noise, out of the chaos, and out of the overwhelm, is where our authentic nature can breathe, where we no longer have to perform, but we can listen to the whispers of our own truth. Our world as an introvert winds inward. Our world needs to be journeyed inward. And this is where we can find our stillness. And in this stillness is where we can find our strength. It's where we can refuel, where we can come home to ourselves. It is in those moments of quiet solitude that we get to meet ourselves, not as the world demands us to be, but as we truly are. And when we get to know ourselves authentically in this way, we find something sacred. We find a place that we can finally be ourself, our true self. So we can't change the world to be quieter, but we can change our environment to become calmer. So let the world chase its chaos and its noise and its movement. Let the world keep running for its pursuit of more. But it is our job as introverts to walk our quiet path, to create and embrace our own inner sanctuary, to listen to the voice within, because in the depth of our own silence and our own stillness, the most profound truths are spoken and the most authentic life begins. The world may mistake your quiet nature as weakness. It may even mistake your solitude for detachment or isolation. But our need for quiet reflection, our need for solitude, our need for silence is what calls us to our safe place. It is our language where our authenticity can be heard. And so we do not retreat out of fear or out of anxiety, but we enter into this place of solitude and of stillness out of reverence, because there is where we find life and meaning, because we understand that silence is its own language, and it's in these unspoken spaces that our depth of existence reveals itself, not in words, not in presence, but the simple act of just being. There's a beautiful concept that I love about our ratio of signal to noise. And as an introvert, the noise and the world can get overwhelming with all its clutter, all its distractions, all its static. There are days when we feel like we are being pulled along by all the noise around us, with all of the notifications, all the conversations, all the plans, a million people telling you to do a million things. And that noise gets really loud, almost like a radio station that isn't quite tuned in to the right frequency. And when we realize that we need calm and stillness and peace and quiet, we tune into that signal of our authenticity. And that is the right frequency for us. That is the part that actually matters. So we need to ask ourselves, is this my authentic signal, or is this just noise without meaning and just filling space? As an introvert, we need to create our environments where we can tune in to our signal of authenticity. So let the other people have their own frequency, but also let yourself know what yours is. And we need to embrace this gift of introversion, because that's exactly what it is. This path of stillness, of quiet, is not a flaw that needs to be corrected, but it's a power to be nurtured, because your stillness and your quiet, your calmness eventually turns to peace. And this is something the world needs more of. Being an introvert is a reminder that wisdom, insight, and depth are not found in the noise of the external, but in the quietness of the soul. We all have a need to be seen, to be valued, to be understood, and to be accepted. And when these needs go unmet, when society doesn't create space for our quiet ways, the natural instinct is to suppress what we need and to mold ourselves into the shape that fits into the world's expectations. The problem with that is that the world will always tell you that what you have is never going to be enough. This could be the child who prefers the stillness and the quietness of books over the playground chatter, who is told to come out of their shell. It may be the teenager who finds comfort in solitude but pressured to socialize, to belong, to fit in. This to an introvert feels very foreign to us, and this is according to the cookie-cutter mold of society's expectations about us. It may be what is written on the report cards or in the performance reviews of both school and work. Comments like we need to be more of a team player, or we need to be more social or more outgoing, and these become the conditions to be more accepted. This may be in contrast to your inner world, in your peace and stillness and quiet, where your authenticity, Your true self is always telling you that you are enough, that our truth has nothing to measure up to. There is no criteria, no comparison, no condemnation, only the quiet understanding that in our place of stillness, there is nothing we have to strive for because we have everything we need right now. But if your truth is held in the belief that the world is right, that we need to learn to suppress what we need at the expense of our authentic introverted nature, as we learn to silence our truth in exchange for how the world defines acceptance, but also keeps moving the goalposts and the criterias of what is acceptable. Your criteria for you is to get your needs of connection met. This may look different. It may feel different. It will be different from your neighbor, your partner, your family, even society. But you are the only one that will understand how your authentic introverted self needs to get that need of connection met. Your need for meaning and purpose may look different as well, and it's measured differently, not by the amount of people that validate your work, but by the way your values line up with your actions. It also lines up with your purpose as you travel your own path with your own interpretation of meaning and purpose. But suppression does not change you, and it does not erase who we are. It only buries it. And buried things, although hidden well, do not disappear, because your quietness and your stillness is always calling you to come home. Your introverted nature is what you hear when the world gets overwhelming, and you can feel the longing of solitude and stillness. It's your introverted nature that is calling you to the quiet moments in a busy environment. The ache of unmet needs of our authenticity that is unexpressed becomes a weight that we carry deep within, because the journey inward is never to escape from the world, but it is a way that we can reclaim ourselves. In the sanctuary of our introverted nature, we realize the validation that we crave from the external world around us is already present once we accept our version of our truth, that we do not need to be louder to matter, nor do we have to perform to be worthy, that we are allowed to choose solitude over social expectation. And as you learn to walk your authentic introverted path, it is the unlearning that there is no shame, no guilt, in stepping away from the noise and cherishing the beauty of a world that we understand within our silence. Your way of being is no lesser, and maybe the world will never fully understand the richness of your internal landscape, but it doesn't mean that it's any less real. We don't have to convince people to try and make them understand. So let the world misunderstand, let people misunderstand, let them question our path. Because your path is never for them to validate or to approve of before you get permission to walk it. Your path is yours to walk. It is yours to honor. It is yours to embrace. You are enough exactly as you are, because in the quiet strength of your solitude, your authenticity starts to take root. So when we are living authentically, we have to use self-compassion, self-awareness and insight by the application of our values being lived out. And our values become the compass. And it's a compass that aligns ourselves to our authentic truth, and it recalibrates ourselves to the path that we are walking. This is an act of witnessing yourself without judgment, that is not asking, who should I be, but instead, who am I truly? The more we learn and become self-aware, the more we understand that our needs of connection, of meaning and purpose, of significance, of safety, of contribution for the introvert can only be seen through the eyes of the introvert. For instance, connection does not have to look like crowded gatherings. It can be found in the depth of a one-on-one conversation and in the silent presence of connecting to the energy of someone else without words. Our meaning in life does not have to be grandiose. It can be found in the quiet acts of creation, of reflecting, of being in the moment, of nature, of expression, of writing or art. And being curious becomes, for the introvert, one of our greatest allies. There's a beautiful quote that talks about the secret of genius is to carry the spirit of the child into old age, which means never losing your enthusiasm to stay curious, to remain open to new perspectives, to new self-discoveries, to the possibility that who you were yesterday does not have to be the person that you are tomorrow. Because with this curious mentality, we also develop the courage to prune off, to shed some of our old beliefs, some of our old habits, our environments or our narratives that do not serve us any purpose anymore. And we do this to remove the dead weight that we may still be carrying around, but also to make room and space for new growth that may be new beliefs, a new narrative, a new way of being. And so these old beliefs and these old stories and narratives have to be gently but intentionally removed, pruned away to make space for who we are authentically becoming. Always be the student. And as soon as we stop learning, we stop growing. Because being authentic is not a destination. It's not even a transformation to someone new. You are just learning to come home to yourself, to create your space as you return home to the essence of who you have always been. So when we let our curiosity guide us towards our authenticity, we are navigating in the right direction. For us, being authentic is not about being loud. It is about being clear, because we honor the rhythm of our own nature. It is being clear in our need for solitude, for stillness, that understanding, that need to be alone does not always equal loneliness. And we understand that difference intimately. Our journey is not to become something that we are not, but it is to strip away what was never ours to carry. We are not here to amplify our voices to meet the world's expectations, but to honor our own voice, to meet our own truth, to move through life with intention rather than impulse, to choose depth over distraction, to honor the quiet power of our introverted nature and embrace what fulfills us, and how to sincerely align back to ourself and to recalibrate ourselves to what brings us peace. And when we find our pace as an introvert, and when we find our environment where we can tune into our right frequency, we start to illuminate. We can find our quiet joy and certainty that we are enough, just as we are. This is where we don't just survive in life. We start to thrive. We expand. We bloom in our own time, in our own way, without rush, without force. Because we know that the journey inward is not an escape from the world, but it is a reclaiming of yourself. In that place, we truly can listen, to hear and to understand who we truly are. We realize that the validation we crave from the external world is already present as our own understanding, as our own knowing, because your authentic nature is your voice, and it's your authentic nature that needs that voice to be lived out into your environment around you. This is where the introvert thrives, not swept away by the noise of the world around us, but secured in the depth of knowing who we are. As introverts, we are often observers of life, seeing and noticing the undercurrents and energies that others may miss. We notice when words don't align with actions, when the energy shifts in the room, when something unspoken lingers between the sentences. We are sensitive to these things, but that also means that we have to be even more vigilant as we learn to live out our truth, because we feel the weight of dissonance, the weight of unbalance more deeply than most. So for the introvert, it is essential we need to learn to make peace with solitude, not as a place of fear that confirms how the world doesn't accept us, because this is the way that we refuel. Solitude and silence, stillness, is how we re-energize, to recover, to rejuvenate, and to heal. And for the introvert, life is not a race, but it's a rhythm. When we find our own pace that is not congested by the world around us, but it's our own current that we flow with, this is where we find our own frequency, this inner harmony that is in balance with our authentic nature. Our flow is what remains when the noise of the world falls away. And it's important to know that it is always your inner nature that sets the rhythm and the pace within our environment. And when we honor our own unique rhythm, this leads to a lifestyle that we are now in harmony with. But when we force ourselves into rhythms that do not match our own, it may be mimicking an extroverted pattern of rhythm, or constant interaction, or constant output, or constant input, without our need to rest. Then we feel out of sync. We feel disjointed. Some people would even describe it as feeling out of balance or out of harmony with our authentic self. Think of your inner world almost like an altar, because this is the place your authenticity lies. We need to be really aware of the things that we place there, of the thoughts we feed it, and the energies that we invite into it. So the journey inward is our sanctuary of silence. It is the stillness where our authenticity lives and breathes. Learning to honor our quiet nature in a world that demands noise is our strength in solitude. So I hope this episode reminded you that your quiet nature is not a weakness. It is a language that we need to honor. It is our home, that you are not here to be louder, you are here to be true. So take what resonates with you in this episode, hold it close to you, carry it into the spaces in your life where you can do something with it. Trust your path, trust your rhythm, and always remember you are enough. So that's all I've got for this episode. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope that you've got something useful from this discussion. And if you have any questions you would like us to discuss on future episodes, then please email me at rethinkingmentalwellbeing@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. So until then, go well, go in peace, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
This Free FM podcast was brought to you with support from New Zealand On Air.